Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a little while since I've done a sit down video, and this is sort of a sit down video. I'm filming it with my vlog camera because it's got a little bit of a wider angle, and I'm going to show you guys some things on the camera. And then also I'm using my the camera that I usually use for sit downs, my Nikon. I am using that to film my next Skillshare class, and I have it like exactly where I want on the tripod, and that was like a huge pain to get it set up, so I'm just leaving that alone. Anyway, yes, that's why we have the vlog camera, so I hope the audio is okay. And this is going to be more of like a chatty sit down anyway, because I had posted in a vlog, or shared in a vlog, mentioned in a vlog, and posted on social media a little while ago that I had finished that project that I had finished last year, the Green Valley Organics project for their whole line of new packaging, that I had finished that and it was out and I saw it in the store. And yes, so you've seen stuff on social media about it. Depending on where you live, maybe you have even seen them in the grocery store, which is so cool. So yeah, you guys sounded like you were interested in potentially hearing a little bit more about the project. So I figured I would just share some of that with you and tell you how it went down, how I got the project, and then a little bit of behind the scenes. So yeah, I have no script or anything. I haven't even made any notes, so I'm just going to talk about it, and hopefully that will be a video. Yeah, so I was contacted out of the blue by a design agency called Enlisted, and they are in California. They're in the same kind of general area as Green Valley Organics, the client. They're in the same general area as the client is. So one of their, I think she's like a account manager, an account manager reached out to me, and then I would go back and forth between her and the art director, and they are the ones who I usually talked with throughout the whole project. So I never actually got any direct correspondence from Green Valley. So yeah, it was all done through Enlisted. Enlisted contacted me, asked about the project, just told me a little bit about the project in general, and then I think I had to sign a non-disclosure. I don't remember if I did or not. Sometimes for these kinds of jobs, they'll, before they'll give any like concrete details, like the name of the client or what exactly the project is, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, saying that you're not going to talk about it for whatever length of time until it's out in public. And I think I did for this project. I don't remember for sure, but anyway, we did that sort of like initial back and forth, and then they were awesome to work with. Enlisted was awesome to work with because they were very organized and had like a really specific list of, I think initially it was going to be 10 illustrations, and or maybe it was going to be 9. There was like an initial number that they wanted, and then we ended up adding a couple more. But she had like a really clear list of the things that I was going to be illustrating, and then they even knew like which size they wanted them at and how big they wanted to be able to reproduce them. So they were able to give me like a bunch of really helpful information up front, and they even knew that usually I do 2 rounds of revisions. They knew that they wanted to have 3 rounds of revisions, so they included all of that up front, which made it really helpful for me when I was coming up with a quote. So then I gave them the quote, and I usually provide a timeline too, but I think in this instance they had like a rough timeline already. The account manager was just like a very organized person, so I loved working with her. So yeah, she gave the info, and I think we kind of came up with the timeline together, and then I gave them a quote, and yeah, just sent all of that information, and it was nice. The client agreed to it right away, and yeah, so that was kind of the groundwork. And then in terms of getting started, we did it like in phases. So there were certain illustrations that they wanted to have like in hand and done before others, and I'm trying to remember which ones we did first, but overall we generally followed my regular process, which is to like provide a sketch, and then and I'm going to try to show some of the sketches here on the screen. So, and I already showed those on social media anyway, I think, so you may have seen them, but if you haven't, they'll be here on the screen. So yeah, I provided sketches and then they provided feedback, and then I adjusted, and then they confirmed, like they looked at the sketch that I had adjusted and said, okay, like, yes, go ahead, or no, can you still change these other things? And then I also did like a rough color around. So usually I would just do the sketch, and then once the sketch is approved, I would go like more or less to final completion. But in this instance, they wanted to be able to look at it kind of early on and get a sense for like, was it going in the right direction or not? And then, yeah, so I did that. And then that was actually really helpful in this instance, because for one of the sketches, it was the blueberry piece, for example. Initially, I was planning on showing the blueberries like as they are in real life, kind of variegated, so shown in different stages of ripeness, which is just personally what I like doing. But in this instance, it was really important for the client to have the blueberries all look like really ripe and perfect. So, so yeah, it was good that we added that extra stage. So yeah, I think I'm going to show some of the illustrations. Let me find that blueberry one. Yeah, so these are done really large because they wanted to be able to reproduce them at a pretty large scale, like for use on banners and trade show stuff. So here are the giant blueberries, and this is, I think it's 12 by 19 or 12 by 20. Yeah, so as you can see, they're a completely uniform blue. And then here they are on the package. And there was a little bit of back and forth as well on the finish work. They had wanted them to have like kind of that vintage botanical illustration look, and I was thinking of that as being like very, very perfect and really realistic. And as I mentioned, the client wanted to have the blueberries not as realistic, actually more in the like perfectly ripe look. And then I also had to go back in and add, I don't know if you can see here, if I'll put a picture on the screen if it doesn't come through, but the client wanted to be sure that it had like a lot of really interesting painterly detail. So I had to kind of go back in and add some of that as well. And of course it wouldn't be a big project if it didn't have a couple of curveballs in it. So one of them was that and I don't think I ever even told the art director about this. For the strawberries, I started working on them, and I got them to a fairly developed stage, especially these ones here. And then I realized that I had just made the seeds way, way too big. You can see here. And I tried to kind of add in more colored pencil around them, because this is just watercolor down here, and make them a bit smaller, but it had just gotten way overworked, and it wasn't really possible to dial it back. So I had to completely start over and do a whole other strawberry piece. And it was a huge pain because these were obviously, like with all the seeds and everything, really, really detailed. But this was a big project, and honestly, even if it wasn't a big project, I'm a perfectionist, and I really want to have something not just that the client will like, but something that I am happy with and proud of. So I had to go back in and rework it, and we ended up with these. And these ones I felt like are much more successful because the seeds aren't like hitting you in the face with the fact that they're seeds, and they look much more to scale the way that they would on an actual strawberry. And I also was a lot happier with the color of the leaves. I felt like they looked fresher and greener. These ones, because I had been working and overworking and reworking so many times, I don't know if it's carrying as well on camera here, but some of this had gotten kind of muddy, so it just looked, yeah, it looked a bit too overdone. So I was really happy with how the second one turned out, and I'm glad that I took the time to do it. Here are some of the strawberries on the package. And then the other curveball, this one I think I mentioned on social media, and I do have some kind of interesting photos of this that I'm going to show. The other curveball was related to an illustration of cottage cheese. And this one was just, this was like a little bit of a miscommunication, I think, between the client and I. The strawberry issue, that was like completely my own fault. So that was a hole I dug for myself. But the cottage cheese one was a little tricky because in the original brief, I understood the notes to say like, okay, you need to have really clearly defined curds of the cottage cheese. So I made this. So then the notes from the client were that they actually needed to make sure not just that the curds were defined, but that it still looked like a unified mass, like it wasn't just a bunch of pebbles or something, but that it actually was had some like creaminess and some body to it. So I worked back over this. The original version of this, as I said, was much more separated and curdled looking. So this is after I have reworked it, and unfortunately it still wasn't where the client wanted it to be. So again, I had to go back and redo it from scratch. So I could have just, as you can see, the spoons are pretty much identical. So I could have just like tried to do it digitally or just redo the cottage cheese part of it and then add that on top of the spoon. But I felt like I needed to actually have it be like one cohesive piece. So I don't know how much this is coming through again. I actually went back to the drawing and redid some of the structural elements and made it look a lot creamier and wetter. Hope that's coming through. And then the client was really happy with that. So here it is on the package. So those were the two big curveballs in the project. And other than that, everything pretty much went as planned. So here's another one of the illustrations. And this one is their kind of basic, the plain, the one that they'll use for like whole milk yogurt and plain kefir. Here it is on the package. And then here's the vanilla. And I made these at this really large size, and then I scanned them in at 1200 DPI as well. So the client will be able to reproduce them at a really large scale if they want to. And then here, this one is kind of interesting. This is the bagel and cream cheese. So I did it as two separate pieces so that they would be able to move it around and position it however they wanted on the package. And, you know, if they wanted to use it in a different way, like on promo materials or something, they could redo the composition there. So here it is on the package. And they just added the drop shadow. The design agency just added the drop shadow themselves digitally. And then this is kind of interesting. So you already saw the blueberries that I did. They have this flavor that is blueberry and pomegranate, and I think it's acai. I think that's how you say it. So I did the blueberry illustration, which they just repurposed from the blueberry packaging. And then I did some acai berries, which are really weird looking if you've never seen them. Look like alien fruit. And then a pomegranate. And that, doing them that way is like individual pieces. That's something that a number of clients have requested over the years. And I think it just like gives them more flexibility with how they can use them. Yeah, so I was happy to do that in this instance. All right, and then this giant bread and butter. I think this is probably the biggest slice of bread I have ever drawn. And that one goes on. Actually, I don't think I have the butter packaging because that's just a sheet of foil, isn't it? Yeah, I don't have the butter packaging. And then the sour cream. And there it is on the package. And then the last one, and this one might be my favorite from the whole project, the peaches. I just really like how I feel like the texture works so well in this one. It makes the peaches look like really fuzzy in the way that they actually do in real life. And I love the drape of the leaves. And yeah, I just feel like it looks, I really like how this one turned out. Oh, you know what I'm just remembering? I think actually the peaches are going to be a newer product. So I think they don't have the peaches on the shelves yet. So they probably haven't printed the packaging. But yeah, I did the illustration anyway. So they'll have everything they need when they are ready to produce that. One more element of the process that I just remembered that might be kind of interesting that is specific to packaging illustration is that in packaging illustration, you have to make sure that the thing that you are illustrating fits with all of the other elements that are on the package. So the label, the logo, the like kind of required legal stuff like the size and the organic label and all of these different elements that have to go onto the package. Unlike with editorial, when they just give you like rough dimensions or sometimes don't even necessarily give you dimensions. With packaging, you have all of these other things to consider. So the label, all that stuff that the design agency gave to me, and I had to kind of work within that constraint to, that's kind of interesting. And if you hadn't done packaging illustration before, that might not be something that you have heard about. So yes, it's fun to create illustrations specifically within those constraints, kind of a different challenge. After it was all wrapped up, I ended up sending a bunch of I made some like a collection of custom prints and then some postcards and stuff that I sent to the design agency, and then they shared them with the client. And it sounded like, again, like I said, I never had any direct correspondence with the client, but from what the design agency passed on to me, they were really happy with it. And then they sent me this whole box full of stuff and some coupons and a thank you note. So yeah, it was pretty cool to actually have at least that connection and to hear that how happy the client was. When I've done packaging stuff in the past with like a big agency working for a national brand, I never hear anything back from the client. So in this instance, it was really cool to like have that reassurance that, you know, they're humans too, and that they were happy with the way things turned out. So oh, and in terms of timeline, this was something I was working on like last fall, late last fall, and I finished up right before Christmas. And then the original plan, I think, was that the packaging was going to be in stores in April. That was when they went public with it. There was some big like natural foods and organic foods trade show out on the West Coast, and that was when they went public with the packaging. But as you'll know, if you saw my last vlogs and if you're following on Instagram, I didn't see it in stores until, you know, mid to late July. So I'm assuming it was out earlier on the West Coast, but here on the East Coast, we didn't get it until later summer. So that is that. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the process. Let me know if you have questions about it, about packaging illustration, or yeah, anything else related to illustration or whatever. It's been a while since I've done a Q&A, so I probably will do one soon. Thank you everyone for watching. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment. And that's it. And I hope everybody has a great week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.